Hi viewers, my dear students, you have enjoyed my lecture for the last 2 days and we discussed some lessons. Today we are going to learn another interesting lesson that is related to history, what has been happened. That is Puru the Brave. That is Puru the Brave. My dear students, you have learnt or won about so many kings, so many emperors, so many warriors in the history. Every warrior, every king, every emperor has his own record, his own special features, and his own name and fame. Among that type of emperors, do you know one particular emperor who is known as the conqueror of the world? Let us try to get the name of that person. Right? Yes, you are right. That is Alexander. This Alexander is called Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. Yes, he is the mighty monarch. He conquered the world at a very young age, and he is known as the conqueror of the world. This Alexander conquered so many kingdoms, and later, as a part of his journey, he came to India. There, he happened to meet a king named Puru. See, again I am telling, in his part of journey, he came to India to conquer India. On the way, he met a king. He is a very small king, but very brave. And self-respected. He met the king Puru. So Alexander sent a message to Puru that he is ready to attack his country if he is interested that he would be vassal. Vassal means this king should be under the control of Alexander the Great, and he has to pay some tax to this Alexander. That means the entire kingdom of Puru will be under the control of Alexander the Great. But Puru has become only a representative of the kingdom. So he sent a message whether he would like to be his vassal or ready to fight against him. I already told Puru was very brave and self-respected man. He did not lose his right on his own country because he has a great love. He has a great love for his country. His country, he wanted his country would be independent, but not under the slavery. He to be independent, but not under the control of some other king or emperor. So he refused. Puru refused to be the vassal of Alexander the Great. Then what happens generally? You know very well. When the mighty emperor sent a proposal to Puru to be his vassal, when the other king refused, either it may be Puru or some others, refused, something will be inevitable. What will be inevitable? A war. A war will be inevitable. Yes, here also the same situation taken place between Alexander the Great and Puru. Between the two, a great war has taken place. But you understand one thing, Alexander, he has enormous army, mighty army, sophisticated warfare methods are there here. When compared to Alexander, Puru is nothing. He is the king of a small kingdom. His army is very limited and his army doesn't have any sophisticated warfare methods. They rely on the old methods. But he does not want to be the vassal of Alexander the Great. So from this we can understand that Puru was brave, self-respected and has a great love for his country. So what he feels, Puru feels that even death is not, even death is preferable to him, but not to be vassal of others. So the great war ready to be going to be happen between Alexander and Puru. So when war is certain, when war is inevitable, what should be needed? The battlefield. The battlefield should be selected. So here the battlefield is by the side of the river Jhelum. By the side of the river Jhelum. Here the battle goes on. The battle goes on between Alexander the Great and Puru. Yes, a fierce battle has taken place. A fierce battle has taken place, and before the mighty army, before the vast army, Puru could not withstand because of his limited army. In result, you know, what will be the result? Generally, the one who has mighty army, enormous army, automatically get victory. So the same thing happened here. Puru could not withstand before the mighty forces of Alexander. Finally, this Puru was captured. Puru was captured by the forces of Alexander. By the forces of Alexander. So this is the background of the lesson. This is the background of the lesson. Now the lesson starts from our textbook. When after Puru was captured by the forces of Alexander the Great, what happens is our lesson. Our lesson has been written in the form of a play. In the form of a play. Play means, you know, it should be written through dialogues. Through dialogues, some characters are also there. In our lesson also, some characters. That is, you can easily tell what will be the characters of our lesson. Ready? Just imagine. Try to guess. Yes, you are right. You can imagine two characters because I already written here. One is Alexander, another one is Puru. So two characters are already decided. Then what might be the other characters? What might be the other characters? Generals. 4 generals are here. And some of the soldiers may be involved. Those who are guards or who are at the doors and who act as messengers, like that. So the first scene at the beginning of the play is, the first scene is like this. Alexander the Great was sitting on a high throne, and the four generals are sitting in low chairs, a little bit low chairs, and they were discussing. They started discussing about the battle taken place between them, and between them means here between Alexander the Great and Puru. So what they were talking means actually they were admired about the braveness of Puru, about the fighting spirit of Puru, about the self-confidence of Puru, about the self-reliance of Puru, about the great love for his country. So the Alexander Great opened his conversation with his generals like this. What did he say? First Alexander is saying to his generals like this: my dear generals, this battle is not an ordinary battle. This will go down. This will go down. What is meant by go down? This will be go down. A beautiful phrasal verb, go down. Go down means recorded in history. Recorded in history. So Alexander says, I already told Alexander, we not call him only Alexander. We always pronounce him Alexander the Great. So we can understand the greatness and the mightiness of Alexander. Even the great man, even the great emperor who conquers the entire world, praising the qualities of Puru, as well as appreciated the battle of Puru. What did he say? This battle will go down in the history of our country. He says, that means it will be recorded with great letters, with golden letters in the history of their country. Then first general says, as your majesty. What is meant by majesty? Majesty is addressing. It is the word used to address the kings, the emperors, or the nobles. So he says, your majesty, it will be recorded. That means it will be go down in the history of India too. That means the general says, really this is a great battle, not doubt at all. It will go down in the history of our country, not only our country, but also India. Another general, see here, I am using a beautiful point here. Here I am using one beautiful expression. What's it? Not only but also. What's it? Not only but also. It's a beautiful expression, and you can understand how the usage of not only but also. Not only means we are saying not about a particular thing and telling about another thing also. This type of expression could be expressed in song not only but also. What I am saying here, you understand two lines. You may notice two lines. The battle will go down in history of this battle will go down in the history of India. That means we are talking about two. One about Alexander's and another one about Purus. So when we are talking about two, we can use not only but also. So how can I express this battle will go down not only Alexander's country but also Purus country. In such a way, this expression is apt. Third general says
Your Majesty, this battle will go down in the history of the world too. Not only this country, not only his country, not only his country.
The third general said, this battle will go down not only our country, not only Puru's country, but also in the history of the world. He says, by quoting these lines, by reading these lines, we can understand how the battle went on, how importance that battle had, how Puru brought or fought bravely. Later, the general said, Your Majesty, actually we haven't expected that we would able to defeat the army of Puru. We didn't expect at the time of fighting Puru and his soldiers. Alexander agreed with the words and said, You are right, General. Every soldier fight like a tiger. And especially Puru, he said. Another general said, but their generals are not as good as our generals, Your Majesty. That means he wanted to self-praise. He wanted to boast of themselves. So the general says, their generals are not so good as or as good as our generals. Then Alexander says, what do you mean? They are not as brave as our generals? He said, no, their generals are very brave. But what the defect is, Puru and his army totally rely on old warfare methods. They still depend on, the most drawback is they still depend on elephants. That is the cause for their defeat. Otherwise, there may be no surprising, even they get over victory over us. Alexander says, so I appreciate Puru for his fighting spirit. Actually, he had learnt about me. He has known something about me, about my mighty soldiers, and how so many kings become vassal to me. But he did not fear of my greatness. Even on hearing so many kings were becoming vassals to me, he did not fear. That news did not make him afraid. I appreciate him. He said. The generals also said, yes, Your Majesty, how he fought. I think he has killed at least 100 soldiers on his own with a single hand. So, my dear students, I am saying one sentence here. What I am telling, Puru has killed at least 100 soldiers of the opposition side. So, here I feel that you remember some other character. Have you remembered? Yes. What's that character? Right, Kala Bhairava. So you have happened to watch your favorite movie, the most sensational movie. What's it? Yes, Magadhira. So what is the character says? Sher Khan send 100 soldiers. That too, those who are great soldiers, not one by one, send all them at once. You hear the dialogue on screen, but you hear this dialogue on small screen. Alexander already told generals prizing that Puru has killed 100 soldiers and he wounded so many. He wounded so many soldiers. And one general interrupted the dialogues and said, Your Majesty, but he too wounded severely. See, understand what I am telling? He too wounded severely. So, by observing this line, we have to grasp what sense is there in the dialogue of that general. Can you identify the way of thinking, the feeling of that general by observing that line? But he too wounded severely. That means he feels jealous of Puru. All are making prizings. All are appreciating Puru. He could not bear it. He wants to belittle the character of Puru. That's why he said that. What he say? He too wounded severely. Then another general said, You are right. That's why we can capture him. That's why we can imprison him. Otherwise we can't. So this line tells us this general has great appreciation to Puru. He likes, he is interested, he has no jealous about Puru's greatness or Puru's fighting spirit or Puru's love for his country or Puru's self-respect and Puru's self-confidence. When the dialogues is going on like this, a messenger entered. He stood at the gate. He says, Your Majesty, that Puru was brought here by 2 soldiers. Puru was presented. Puru was going to be presented before you, Your Majesty, if you permit us. Then Alexander asks one thing. Was he in chains? What's the dialogue? Alexander say, was he in chains? The soldier said, Yes, Majesty, he was in chains. If you permit us, we will present him before you. See, what Alexander said at the time is noteworthy. What did he say? Remove the chains. Free him from the chains. He is a great warrior. He is a brave man. In addition to that, he is a king. It's not good on the part of you to be in chains. Release him from the chains and present before me, he said. So from this dialogue, you can understand the character of Alexander. What do you understand about the character of Alexander? Though he is a mighty monarch, though he is the conqueror of the world, though he has a great ambition to occupy the entire world, but he has a great values. He knows who should be honored, how should be honored, what is good and what is bad. We can understand. That means we say Alexander might not be totally a cruel man. Just because of his ambition, he went on attacking kingdom after kingdom and merging all those kingdoms into his kingdom. Meanwhile, Puru was presented before him. Then Alexander looked at him and asked, "O brave man, the great Puru, Tell me, didn't you feel you made a mistake? Didn't you feel you make a mistake? Puru said for the words of Alexander, no, never I did make any mistake. Then Alexander says like this, wasn't it a mistake not to accept to be my vassal? He said, no, because still I am a lawful ruler of this kingdom. Lawful means actually it's my country. So I should be the ruler. You attacked me. I did not attack you. I am not capturing any kingdom. I am ruling my own kingdom, where I was born, where I was brought up, what I was here. So still I am the lawful ruler. He replied, Alexander, Puru, now you are prisoner to me. Just in a warning tone he says, now you are a prisoner to me. Puru replied again, but there is no difference, Your Majesty, whether I am a prisoner, whether I am in chains or a free man. My attitude is the same. My feelings are same. I never change my opinions. I always used to say, I am the lawful ruler of this kingdom. I tell the same, whether I was in chains, whether I was in slavery, whether I was imprisoner or imprisoned. Alexander shocked for the brave reply of Puru. His admiration, his interest about Puru started growing more and more. He was astonished. He was astonished at the great attitude of Puru. He liked it very much. Some of the generals said, Your Majesty, he is very proud. Then Alexander replied, yes, a soldier should have pride. It's a great thing for a soldier to be proud. Nothing wrong in it, he said. Again he looked at the Puru and asked, O king, now tell me how I will treat you. See, a beautiful question. How I will treat you. How I will treat you. How I will treat you. How beautiful the question is. The answer is also the same coin. Answer is paid in the same coin. That means very, very beautifully answer is given by Puru. You know what Puru says? My dear children, try to imagine. For example, if you are in the position of Puru, what will be your answer? What would you like to say? Try to guess. How will you be treated? Yeah, so many of you giving so many replies. That reply tells your attitude. That reply tells how you think, how you are self-confident, how you are self-reliant, how you love yourself, how you love independence. But here you observe the answer of Puru. What his reply is, treat me as a king treats another king. See, beautifully replied. Treat me how a king treat another king. This answer makes Alexander grow his admiration more and more. He was satisfied, quite satisfied with the answer of Puru. So he directly says to him, Puru, I'm pleased. I'm totally happy. I'm quite satisfied with your answer. Ask me something. I don't need anything. Then I ask you something. Alexander says, the great Alexander, who is the conqueror of the world, says, I ask you. What did he ask you now? Will you be friend of me? The great Alexander asked the little king, will you be friend of me? If anyone asks like that, simply we say, oh yes. But Puru is totally different from others. Puru is totally different from us. What he said, I accept your condition, I accept your friendship on one condition only. See how he is telling, keeping some conditions, then only he wants to accept the friendship of the great man, Alexander. Okay, Alexander agreed. Tell your condition. You should treat me as equal as you, and my land should be independent. If you accept these two conditions, that means this Puru will not be vassal. This kingdom will not be under the control of Alexander. This land is independent. And if you treat me as equal as you are, but not your subject, but not your subordinate, then I accept. Alexander felt very happy for his words and accepted him. The friendship is developed. That means the bond is created, friendship bond is created between the two persons. So what we understand is our great qualities, our independence, our bravery, our courageousness, our self-confidence makes us win the heart of any great man. If you have to develop these type of qualities, you will be special apart from others. You will be special. You will be peculiar. You will be loved by all. So my dear students, try to develop those qualities.